Welcome to People Studio Podcast, created for and dedicated to the people, places, and stories of the One Wind River family worldwide. We celebrate the things that make each of us unique, yet brings us together no matter where we work, live, and play. At Wind River, we drive innovation and transformation, but our real secret to success is how we all work together. Listen as we meet the team, share stories, and build relationships that make a difference. Now, here's your host, Terese Lamb, and her guest, Stephanie Moscrip.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me on the People Studio podcast today. I'm so excited to share, you and highlight what really makes you unique and celebrate your growth journey with our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity.
So Stephanie, looks like you joined us, Wind River 13 and a half years ago. Wow. And what a career you've had, starting out as an engineering program manager for the Linux product, moving into program director, and now, senior director for Linux. And you're one of the very few engineering leaders we've had, a female leader that we've had. And of course, we've been bringing in more female leaders lately under the leadership of Matt. And, he's a big proponent of diversity. So I want to ask you a question, to share with our listeners, and especially our women listeners out there. What is it like to be a woman leader in tech?
So, I've been very fortunate to work during the course of my career with people who have really enabled and supported me, as a woman in technology. So I've been very lucky that way. It's been very rare that I've been challenged or disregarded because of my gender. Right. But when it did, it made me more determined to be heard, right, and to have my voice heard.
Great. And we definitely do, love to hear, what you have to say and sharing your opinion. So thank you so much for being you. Can you share one key learning then with our, women engineers, to really help guide their own career development, at Wind River?
Yeah, my key advice would be to say to women engineers and women in tech that in the end, you're the person with the most control over your own destiny. Mm-hmm. So you need to find the courage, which can be difficult at times, to take risks, to make mistakes, to challenge yourself to see what you can do and what you can't do. A lot of times we hold ourselves back, and it's really up to us to find that courage and make challenge ourselves to do different things and to step up for different roles. Everybody has something different to contribute. There's no single path to success. And you need to know what your strengths are so you can recognize them and capitalize them as much as you need to know what your weaknesses are.
I love that. And you taking the leap and courage to do this People Studio podcast says a lot. So thank you so much for sharing that. It really reminds me, yesterday I was reading an article that a chief, this organization, for helping powerful, women leaders across all different industries. And they were sharing this article, very inspiring person named Stacey Abrams. And she was really talking about making fear her friend. So what you said just right there, really reminded me of that article. And her advice to women as well is, be courageous and, make mistakes because you learn from them. So, also true. So thank you so much.
I'll have to look for that one.
Yeah, do look for that. Do look for it. It's very inspiring. And another thing, Stephanie, you recently got to join us at ELT, when Matt went on paternity leave for 6 weeks. Let me start that over because that was, I don't know why I said paternity leave. Okay. So Stephanie, you recently joined us at ELT when Matt went on paternity leave for 6 weeks, and we really appreciated you having you on the ELT, especially me. I was the only female leader on ELT until Jessica came, and then now Kira, and then of course you, and you added to that mix and rebalanced. Not to say that our ELT male colleagues, they're all respectful, of anyone, right, regardless of gender. But many people think of ELT as a secret society, right? We talk amongst ourselves and everything's so secretive. But we've had discussions after your very first ELT experience. What's one key takeaway that you can share with the rest of the organization about, what we discussed, or, what's something that was, wow, I didn't know, that's what ELT talks about, that you can share with the rest of the org?
Well, I think, one of the certainly key takeaways is everyone there, everyone on the ELT are real people, right? With very passionate about the company, right? Very, very passionate about the company. And everyone, one of the things I really appreciated was sort of reinforces our culture that everyone on the ELT is very open to ask questions, to learn, to be open when they don't fully understand something, and to research it, to look outside, look outside the box. And look for other solutions, and to challenge each other, very respectfully though, but challenge each other and look for different ways to approach things. So I found that really a good experience for me to take away, to act the same way in my own, meetings, etc. And, in terms of what they talk about, a lot on, the same things the rest of the company is focusing on. The ELT is sort of walking the walk, talking about Wind River Studio, talking about our culture. What can we do? What can we do better, right? How do we move forward? So it was good to know that there's a top to bottom alignment.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's always, difficult when you're in it, to make those observations, and, for you to come in and see that and share. Really appreciate that feedback. And, we will continue, of course, to be aligned and make sure we are aligned, and help drive that alignment across the organization, with our upcoming OKRs, of course. That was just a warm-up, Stephanie. That was just a warm-up. We're now going to get personal. So be ready.
Okay.
I know people know you very well, in Ottawa, but of course the rest of we're a global company, and the rest of the organization may not know you as well. So can you tell us a bit about who you are, Stephanie? How many siblings do you have, your family?
Sure. So let's see. I'm an only child, which some people would say explains a lot. But I am married. My husband actually works at Wind River as well, and we have 14-year-old twins, one boy, one girl. So I had them just before I joined Wind River. They were my break between jobs.
Oh, I could have just said it was Wind River baby, but not quite.
Nope, just before I joined. So they were my break.
So how do you juggle? I mean, you've got twins, right? I mean, I have a teenage son. He's 15 this year, and I went around the world, traveled, worked here and there with him, just two of us, right? And that was already a handful, and you have two. So how do you juggle work? Very demanding work, and two twins, right? How do you juggle that?
There's a lot of prioritization, right, of what's the priority right now, right, and what can I do later. And I've been, very fortunate to work at Wind River. That's, been very flexible in supporting, right, things like having to go to a doctor's appointment, or any type of stuff like that, right. And a lot of working, taking time off to spend time with family, right, during dinner hours or whichever else, and then going back to work later on if I have things I need to catch up on. We also my husband and I share the workload of driving to we have 2 kids in hockey, one in
Wow.
soccer and one in dance. So
Wow.
we have a Google family calendar that we use to keep ourselves organized.
Oh, wow, you have to be super organized. And I mean, that definitely shows up at work as well. You're super organized. So, yeah, I can completely understand why as well, right? With a hectic calendar like that.
You are listening to People Studio Podcast. At Wind River, we drive innovation and transformation, but our real secret to success is how we all work together. Now, back to the interview.
So let me ask you the question then. I mean, how has COVID lockdown, has it changed the dynamic of the family, with everyone at home and, you're trying to balance your home and the kids doing schooling at home too, right?
It's changed the dynamic in some ways for the better and in some ways not. My kids would love to be in school in person.
Wow.
Unfortunate, I'm fortunate enough they're very good students and they're very self-motivated. So, they haven't required a lot from me in terms of homeschooling. On the plus side, it's, we don't have hockey, we don't have dance, we don't have. So there's not as much running around, and it's given us an opportunity to realize that a little quieter lifestyle is not a bad thing, right? And finding opportunities to enjoy time together in different ways, like doing online escape rooms or we've taken to we all like to cook, so we do family international cooking nights. We pick a country and we all cook something from that country.
That's excellent. I mean, I love baking, but I had to stop because we were all gaining weight, so I had to find some other things to do. Because when you gain weight, then you have to go and exercise more, and I'm not so big on exercise. But anyway, so we all need me time. We all need me time. Especially as women, right? Where we have to take care of the family, and we've got a demanding job as well. What do you do? What did you do, or what do you do in your spare time during this COVID lockdown?
Yeah, good question. Well, I have a few things that I've been doing lately. I've been over the last few years, I've sort of been challenging myself more and more with my physical fitness. So last summer, I trained with my dog, and we did a virtual half marathon in October. So that was a huge step forward for me. I love to read. I'm a voracious reader. So nothing, to be honest, it's a lot of escapist reading, right? Just, just downtime, the latest serial killer murder mystery or, that type of stuff. So that's a big word. And then I'm very interested in photography. I'm missing travel because I can't take pictures of the places we go, but I'm very interested in photography.
Wow. I love looking at pictures. I'm not so great at taking the pictures, but I love and appreciate pictures. So you said you love travel. I love traveling as well. So when the lockdown is over and the travel ban is lifted, where would you go first?
Oh boy, that's a running discussion in our family, right? We all have our favorites for where we go. It's kind of a trade-off between taking the kids to Europe because they've seen a lot of the parts of the world, but there's parts of Europe they haven't seen. We've talked about going to Australia. We've been to New Zealand, but I think my husband's running favorite is he'd like to go to Australia. I'd like to go maybe to Southeast Asia or somewhere like that. So it's going to be quite the battle to figure out where we actually do go when we're allowed to travel again. But it's fun to dream about.
Yeah. Do go to Australia. There is a place called the Great Barrier Reef. And if you do, love snorkeling or diving, it's certainly the place to go. I mean, I grew up in Australia, lived there for 30 years and never been to Great Barrier Reef until last year because there was nowhere else to go. When I was down there in 4 months, staying with my family. yeah, went to Great Barrier Reef because we had to stay locked down in Queensland, and that was the only place to go. So we went there. It's amazing. It is amazing. So do go.
It's amazing how we're horrible tourists of our own country or
Yes.
the place that we live, right? We miss out on so much. So that's one benefit of COVID as well, as people have taken to exploring, where we live more.
Absolutely. Staycations, as they call them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you said you love books, right? And I love reading books. I mean, you mentioned you like reading mystery books. I mean, what's what are you reading lately that you can share that's very interesting for others who are great book readers?
Well, if you like sort of mystery writer suspense, I've become a huge fan of Ruth Ware. I'm kind of chewing through her books at a rapid rate. She reminds me of Agatha Christie, that kind of,
right.
mystery and there's twists and turns at every page, and you really can't guess where it's coming, like a lot of books. So I'm a huge fan of hers these days. That's my guilty pleasure these days.
I mean, a lot of the thriller mystery books then turn into movies. Have you read a book and watched the movie and go, that wasn't the same?
I find most movies just don't do the books justice. So Gone Girl, right, would be a great example of that. Fantastic book, right? But the movie was, The one exception of that would be maybe Big Little Lies. I'm Lillian Moriarty. I like her books as well, and they did a good job with that miniseries. So.
Oh, good. So maybe it's miniseries can actually really tell the story. That aligns better with a book than a movie that tries to jam pack it. All in one show, right? Yeah. So Stephanie, let's turn back time, and what is there a regret or one of your greatest regret that you wish you could do over if you had a chance?
I don't think there's no single big failure that jumps out at me. That's not to say I haven't failed, at different aspects, in all parts of my life. Everyone does, right? But there's nothing hasn't been anything that I've ended up massively regretting. I tend to be pretty resilient, and I'm a natural optimist. So when I did fail, I tended not to dwell on it for long and tended to move forward and try and learn from it. That said, I would say, in general, I have a general regret that I didn't advocate more for myself earlier in my career. And as I mentioned earlier, that I didn't recognize how my strengths could be used in different roles. So that's probably my biggest regret in not realizing that earlier and standing up for myself more strongly for career opportunities.
If you, if there was a moment in hindsight that changed your view of the world, was there any of that moment that you can think of?
Well, I would obviously, I'm not sure if I could pinpoint to a single moment. Obviously, as we talked before, COVID was a bit of, an eye opener that, really sort of changed my view of the world in terms of being able to appreciate simple things and not rushing around so much, and how important it is to connect with people, right? That even I'm an introvert, but even introverts like me really need people in your life, to connect to. And to me, that's a bit of an eye opener. And it certainly changed my perspective on need versus want. Going through the last year or so, you really learn to understand that we want a lot of things, but we may not need them.
You are listening to People Studio Podcast, exploring the people, places, and stories of the One Wind River family.
I'm going to fast forward now to today, and let's dream a little bit here. It's a fun question. If you could have all the money in the world, what would you do with your life? Would you still, work for Wind River because you love it so much? Or, are there things that you would love to do if you could?
A great question. Wow. I think I would probably not work for Wind River for a long time, not because I don't enjoy it, but because I think I would probably take the opportunity to see if I could maybe donate my skills to a charity organization or to someone who had that need for, the organization skills or the planning skills. And, if I had the money to do that without needing the income, right, then
Right.
I think that's something I would get a lot of satisfaction from, being able to use those skills for a charity, et cetera.
That's such a noble aspiration to have, and I think we all could aspire to give more time and mind share back to the community and help support and have impact. I mean, we have something in Wind River called Wind Gives Back. I mean, is there anything there that you think we could do better, to have a better community impact, for example, or areas where you think we could focus more on to have a bigger impact?
I think, COVID's made it more challenging to be able to contribute through, Wind Gives Back just in general, especially in Canada, right? There's been so many restrictions on what you can do, et cetera. But, one feedback I give is widening the opportunities for different geographies or, and I think there's been some work to start on that, right, to be able to highlight opportunities, in Canada or in, Asia or, along those lines, or things that people might be able to do closer to home. I think the closer at home you are, the more maybe satisfaction there is, right, in seeing the impact from what you're doing.
Right. So local community, seeing that, firsthand impact, right, is what you're talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. But there's some great stuff, on the Wind Gives Back. I've looked at a few things there that are certainly interesting. But
is there a hero of fiction that you admire and is something that also inspires you?
Yeah, it's going to sound a little crazy, but one of my heroes of fiction is actually from a children's series. It's a popular Canadian children's series called Anne of Green Gables. And for those who don't know about it, it's about a girl in the late 1800s, and she's, about 11 or 12, and she's adopted by an older brother and sister to help around a farm, and it's all set in Prince Edward Island, Canada. And, she has very vivid red hair. She's impulsive. She's willful. She's full of curiosity, right? She's not anything that area of the island has seen or would have expected. But the reason she's my hero is that, rather than conforming to the expectations of those around her and what was expected of a typical, young lady, she had complete confidence in herself and who she was, and she held her ground. And as a result, those around her sort of fell in love with her and came to respect her. And I'd love that as an example for a young woman or, for anybody, to have that confidence in who you are and what your fundamental beliefs are and be comfortable standing up for that. And, she was a big fighter for the downtrodden, those that were being bullied or, that needed help. And she also was really good at learning from her mistakes because she made a lot of mistakes. So I have always really sort of admired that character, and my daughter has a lot of the same characteristics. So I think that brings it back to mind for me too, of how I admired that character when I was younger.
And but certainly those characters and attributes, we see that in you too, Stephanie. So certainly the inspiration there, as you said, is certainly coming through as well. It's clear, for women, especially in tech, right? It's about really making sure that your voice is heard, making sure that your opinions are heard, right? Even if it is right or wrong, but making sure that you're not somewhere in the background, because that's very important, right? And being courageous, as you said, and being okay to fail, right? And learning from that. That those are all great attributes for us to grow, and it certainly has shown in your career, with Wind River as well. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. And absolutely, as you said, you hit the nail on the head, right? We need to speak up, and we need to advocate for our opinions and ourselves.
And it starts here. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing, for being vulnerable, for being authentic you as well. And I know some of those questions were curly, but it definitely, really shows who you are, right, as a person. And we appreciate who you are. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for us at Wind River here. Very much appreciated, and looking forward to partnering with you on diversity and inclusion initiatives.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful initiative. So thank you.
This has been People Studio Podcast with your host, Terese Lamb. Listen next time as we continue to explore the people, places, and stories of the One Wind River family. We'll talk with you next time on People Studio Podcast.